Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming for you a book haul. So this is my summer book haul. Here I'm going to be talking about some books that I bought, but actually it's mainly books that I've been given because I'm trying to cut down how many books I buy. So if you are a regular watcher of my videos, particularly my stats videos, you'll know that I have introduced a new system to help me buy less books, and it is kind of working, which is positive really. I'm going to go through the books. I will just say it's quite a hot day today, so I've got the window open, so apologies if you hear any traffic noise, and I made the error of putting my washing on before I started filming, so if you can hear my washing machine, I also apologise for that too. You can see that my packing for moving is in progress. You can see my DVD shelves are starting to empty, and I wanted to start packing up some of my books, so I thought I'd get this book haul filmed today so that I can start packing some of these books because I have loads to pack, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Anywho, right, without further ado, so I'm going to start with the books I bought, and I'm going to start with those books that I bought that I've already read. The one that I read most recently was Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This was our Space Sirens book club pick for July, and I've talked about this in a recent reads video, but I also did a book diary for it, so I will link that for you in the description box so you can find out what I thought about it, but spoiler, I really loved it. And then we've also got City of Brass, which I buddy read in July with some friends from the Space Sirens book club. So this is the first book in the Davabad, I'm never sure if I'm saying that right, in the Davabad trilogy. I really loved this and I think it's going to become a favourite series, I'm hoping, unless bad things happen to my favourite characters, in which case I will cry. Then the next book, I think I read this in June. Anyway, so this is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I really loved this book. I bought it because it was getting really hyped, but also because I've read The Poet X, another of Elizabeth Acevedo's books, and I really loved that. So when this one was getting hyped, I was fairly certain I was going to like it too, and it did live up to the hype for me, so really enjoyed that one too. And then finally, the last one for this little stack is I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day, which was the group book for the last round of Voltathon, so I bought this to join in that and I really loved it and it was really worth reading. So this is a middle grade book about a girl from an Indigenous American background, but she doesn't know a lot about it because her mother was adopted, so it's her finding out about more about her family, which was really interesting. I'm going to carry on with books that I bought. So I've got another little stack here that are mostly things that I've pre-ordered. Actually, I'll talk first about our August book club pick for the Space Sirens book club is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and I'm going to try and read it before I move. I should say I don't know when you'll see this video, it may be after I move, who knows, bear with, everything's a bit up in the air at the moment. Heard so many good things about this book that I'm really excited about it. And then I've got 4 books that I pre-ordered that have arrived recently, and I'm trying not to pre-order as many books, but yeah, these were some that I already had pre-ordered that I didn't want to cancel. So the first one was Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron, and because I pre-ordered it I got this really cute pin that goes with it. I say cute, it's got a dagger in it, but never mind. I'm so excited about this. It's kind of fairy tale retelling. I'm fairly certain it has a female-female relationship in it and people of colour as the central characters, so really excited to see this take on this sort of fairy tale world. The next one is called Half-Life by Lillian Clark. This is science fiction. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's about, there's a company that are trialing cloning people and they want to market it, but they need someone to take part in this trial. So this girl, Lucille, volunteers because she has too many commitments that she can't cope with, so she figures having a second version of herself might be quite helpful, and then I think the story develops from there. Don't know too much more about it than that, but it sounded like a really fun concept, so I thought I'd give it a try. I've not read any Gillian Clark before, but I know she's got another book out which has an ace protagonist, so if I enjoy this one I'll definitely be getting that one as well at some point. Then next we have a book that is the next one I needed to carry on a series which has just come out. So this is The Cursed Hunter by Bethany Atazadeh. This is the 3rd book in the Stolen Kingdom series, and I think this is kind of a companion novel, so runs parallel to the first 2 books rather than being a direct sequel, but I think it refers a lot to the first 2 books, so I think it's one that is going to be helpful to have read in order. I have read the first 2, so I'm hopefully going to get to this before too long. I think it's a little bit shorter than the other ones as well, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And then I don't know if she's announced even the title or anything for the 4th one yet. And I'm quite pleased because I thought she changed the covers, but this is actually the original cover that I was expecting, and it's really pretty. So hopefully I'll be able to get 4 that are all the same style, because I don't personally like the new covers that she's designed as much, but I don't know whether it's a UK edition thing that she had to stick with these covers. I'm not quite sure what happened with that, but I just think this cover is beautiful, and I'm really excited to carry on reading this series. Finally, one of my favourite indie publishers, I say that, I've only actually read one of their books so far, but I own several others, but I just really love the way they go about what they do. So I pre-ordered another of their books. This is called Outsiders. It's from Three of Cups Press, who are a publisher I really, really love. This is a collection of short stories, and I think they're all exploring the idea of being someone that doesn't quite fit in. So it's exploring what it is to be an outsider from some of the most exciting voices in short fiction. Their book on anxiety was one of my favourite books from last year. That wasn't just short stories, that was essays and other things as well, poetry, that sort of thing. This is all short stories, and so I'm really excited to get to this. Okay, so then I've got some books that came from subscription boxes. So one of them I've already talked about a little bit was my latest Ninja Book box book, which is Ink and Bone. I can link the unboxing for that description if you want. There are actually 2 books in that box. The other one was another book from Three of Cups Press, which I already owned a copy of, so I did a giveaway for that. But this was the sort of the main book, which is a kind of historical fantasy set in a world where the Great Library of Alexandria never burnt down, and knowledge has become like currency, and magic is linked to knowledge and stuff. I've heard so many good things about this series. Nikki from Books and Lemon Squash keeps telling me how good this series is, so I'm really excited. Hopefully we'll be getting to this one soon. Most of these books that I've just been talking about are ones that I'm hopefully going to be taking to uni with me. I just need to figure out how much space I have for books when I go. Okay, and then next I've got the 2 latest books from my Perrine Press subscription. So we've got Ankomst by Gorgil Gabrielsen. I probably have said that wrong. I really do apologise if I have. This is translated from Norwegian. I don't really know anything about what it's about. An environmental scientist in remote northern Norway. I really love Perrine books because they specialise in translating European fiction from less well-known authors, but they don't just stick to like the famous countries. They find some really rare and real gems, and I've enjoyed every book I've read from them so far. So they are a publisher that I will constantly rave about. I need to do an indie spotlight on them soon, actually, an indie intros video, because I haven't done one of those for a while, so they might be the next one that I do. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I don't know how soon I'll get to this because I'm kind of prioritising books that will tick off new countries for me for Read Around the World, and I've already read from a Norwegian author, but it's one that I hopefully will get to before too long. And then the other book is one that I probably will get to quicker because it is from a Georgian author, and I haven't read a book for Georgia yet. This is called The Pearfield, and I'm going to get this name wrong as well, I'm sure, by Nana Ektimishvili. I'm really sorry, I probably said that horribly. So it sounds like, I don't know too much what it's about, but it sounds like it's about a young woman from Georgia who goes to a school which is called the Residential School for Intellectually Disabled Children, or as the locals call it, the School for Idiots. So it's about her life in there, how they struggle to cope in that situation, and then what happens to her afterwards. I'm really excited to read this because, as I say, I've not read a book by a Georgian author before. This one is one that I'm hopefully going to be getting to fairly soon. And then I've got 3 books that I bought that I haven't read them yet because I've been reading other things from the library on this topic, but there are 3 books I bought after the Black Lives Matter movement became very prominent again, and so I'm really keen to read these quite soon. But I bought a couple of ebooks as well, which I've already read, and then I found that my library ebook app had loads of titles on there that I really wanted to read, so I've been prioritising them, partly because when I'm packing stuff up to move, it's a bit easier to just have books on the iPad to read. I'm getting more into ebooks, but these are ones that, again, I want to get to quite soon. One of them I really feel like I should have read already, but I haven't quite got around to it yet, which is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reni Eddo-Lodge. Heard a lot of good things about this book, and it's a UK perspective on the issue of racism, particularly institutional racism, systemic racism, and how that affects people of colour in the UK. So something that I think is really important to read about and learn more about. Yeah, need to get to this soon, and this is definitely one that will be going to uni with me to read. And then I've got 2 books by June Sarpong, who is a journalist and broadcaster in the UK. I've got one very short one called The Power of Women, which is actually about feminism, but I was interested to read it from the perspective of a black female author and presenter, and so, I mean, this one I've got no excuse really because it's so short, so hopefully we'll be picking this up before too long. As I say, I've got quite a few out from the library on the ebook app at the moment. And then this other one is Diversify, again by June Sarpong, which is 6 Degrees of Integration, about how to build more diverse workplaces. And I think from when I bought it, she actually deliberately doesn't talk about race specifically in this book. She talks about other things like classism and sexism and stuff like that, ageism, and other ways that the workforce is quite diverse, and how we can amplify marginalised voices into different characteristics and not just about race. So I think that's a really interesting thing, because often when we ask people of colour about their experiences of diversity, we're only really asking them about their opinions on race and racism. So it'd be really interesting to see what she says about other forms of diversity as well. And I've again heard really good things about this one. And then I've just got 3 more books that I bought, and then the rest are all ones that have been given to me. So it was about half and half, I think, really. So I've got 3 books that I bought after hearing about them on the Strong Sense of Place podcast, which is a podcast I really, really love. It's on a break at the moment, but the first season of it was so much fun. Each episode they look at a different location, and sometimes it's a geographical location like a country, and sometimes it is a theme. So like there was one about the circus and one about the sea and one about restaurants, and from the one about restaurants I actually bought 2 of the books because they sounded so good. The first one I bought actually because it's from a Norwegian author, and I'd forgotten that I'd already read a Norwegian author for Read Around the World, but this one sounds really fun anyway. So it's called The Waiter by Matthias Foldbakken. This is about a waiter who works in quite a prestigious restaurant, but he doesn't think that the other people that work there and the clientele quite live up to his standards, so he's a bit of a snob really, and it's about his experiences of working in this restaurant, and it sounds like it could be really, really fun. The way they talked about it on the podcast made it sound absolutely brilliant. And then the other one is actually a very different style of book, but also about a restaurant. So this is called Crescent by Diana Abu Jaber. So she is Jordanian American, and this is about a small cafe in Los Angeles, in a sort of Middle Eastern neighborhood in Los Angeles, and it's about the owner of the restaurant, the main cook there, and a professor at a local university. Apparently there's really good descriptions of food in this book, which was one of the things that drew it to me. The way they talked about this book just made it sound really, really good, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And then the third book was from the episode on Morocco, and it wasn't actually one that the hosts themselves recommended. They had a special guest on who lives in Morocco, and she said that this author, I don't think she mentioned this book specifically, I can't remember, but she said this author was a Moroccan author that really summed up what life in Morocco is like really well. So this is Secret Sun by Layla Lalami. I had meant to read this I think in July, but I didn't quite get round to it, so it will be going on my TBR for a Read Around the World book fairly soon. So this is one I'm going to be getting to hopefully in the next couple of months. This is about a young man, a teenager, who has been brought up by his mother, and then one day his father reappears on the scene, and his father's quite a wealthy businessman, and he takes his young adult son in, and his life completely changes, and the story goes from there. But apparently it's really evocative of what it's like to live in Morocco, so I am quite keen to pick this one up soon. Okay, so that is all the books that I have bought for myself. I've then got a little stack of books that have been given to me. Most of these were from my dad because he's been having clean out. But I'm going to start with, I've received a few books for review that I'm going to talk about first. I haven't read them yet, I'm going to get to them soon. So I've got Heroine Chic by James William Purcell Webster. So this is a collection of short stories, very short stories. Some of them are like less than a page long. So it says on the blurb, featuring 52 very short stories, Heroine Chic is a celebration of the heroine's place at the heart of science fiction, fantasy and reality. I was sent this for free from the publisher in exchange for an honest review, and so I will be reading this and reviewing this very soon. And then I have a book and like short story novella, I guess, from the same author, but both within the same series. So this is Josie Jaffrey, who I discovered on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. She self-publishes, and this is a first book in a new series from her called Mayday. The series is called Seekers, and it's about vampire detectives. So I don't generally read a lot about vampires, but the concept of this I found really intriguing, and it's kind of a subgenre of fantasy that I kind of want to get into a little bit more. It's an urban fantasy style book, this one, so I'm thinking it might have sort of Rivers of London kind of vibes, and I really enjoy those books, so I'm going to see what I think. Hopefully really enjoy it. I have actually requested another arc from her as well, which is another series, so she's a very prolific writer. She's got so many books, and I'm really intrigued to try and read more of them. And then this is a short story from the same series, so I think it's a prequel short story called Killian's Dead. Yeah, it's about the same character. I'm gonna probably do a joint review of both of these together when I've read them. And then I've got one book that I received in a giveaway. So this I got from the Big Green Bookshop on Twitter, do Buy a Stranger a Book Day. It's usually about once a week. It was actually quite a while ago that someone offered to buy this book for me, but the distributors were out of stock, so I had to wait a little while to get it. So this is called The Merest Lost by Stephen Neal, and I don't really know very much about it. Oh, it's about post-revolutionary Paris, which I find the French Revolution so fascinating, having studied French at university. Yeah, I think it's historical romance, maybe. Seems to be some sort of mystery elements. The person that bought this, I'm not sure what their name was, but apparently it was their favourite book, and they bought 10 copies for people. Really intrigued to see what this one is about. And then the rest of the books were all from my dad. So I've got 2 that he found for me in like a charity sale, and then the rest were all ones that he's just clearing out because he's read them and doesn't want to reread them. Actually, there's one that I'd already read, which he gave me because I thought I might reread it at some point, which is called Roses from the Earth, which is a biography of Anne Frank by Carol Ann Lee. So I read this when I was a teenager, when I was doing history at school, and so I want to at some point reread The Diary of Anne Frank. I think I only have an abridged edition, like a children's edition, so I want to get like a nicer edition of that, and I'll reread that and then reread this as well at some point, but I don't know how soon that will be. So that was one he was clearing out. I've got 2 here that he picked up for me in a charity sale. One is because he knows I'm trying to collect all the Agatha Christie books that I haven't read yet, so this is Hickory Dickory Dock, which is one of the Poirot series. I'm not sure at what point it comes in the series. I think it's one of the slightly later ones, so it'll be a little while before I get to this because I'm still fairly early on in the series because I haven't read any for a while and I'm really missing it. So I need to get back into that series, and then hopefully we'll get to this before too long. And then because he knows that I'm trying to practice my French a bit more, he found this one which is called Domino Journaliste by Suzanne Perrault. So this I think is actually a kids book. It's got quite big print, and so this might actually be the next French book I pick up to help me practice my French a little bit. And I just thought that was really sweet because I'd asked him to look for Agatha Christie books at this book sale for me, and he only found the one, so he was like, oh, there's a French one, I'll buy that for her as well. So then there's 2 non-fiction ones that he gave me. One is the autobiography of George Muller, who was a Victorian Christian who ran a number of orphanages for poor children. I think it was in Bristol. Dad visited the George Muller Museum a couple of years ago, I think, and bought the book there and thought I might like it, so he gave me that one. And then got a book by A.W. Tozer called The Root of the Righteous. I'm not really sure what this one is about, but it's a Christian non-fiction. Really not enjoying the white covers today, are we, like? I'm not entirely sure what that one's about, so I'll get to it at some point. So then we've got a book from an author that I enjoyed as a child. I'm not quite sure how Dad ended up with this one. It wasn't one that I read when I was a kid. So this is The Sorcerer's Daughter by Faye Sampson. These are children's fantasy books. That's what she specialises in, and she was an author I really liked when I was younger. Looking forward to seeing if she's as good as I remember. The rest of the books were from 2 different authors. One of them he's a big fan of, but he's read all of his books now, I think, and has given them all to me. So this was the last series from this author that he hadn't given me. This is the Bright Empires series by Stephen Lawhead. So we've got The Skin Mat, The Bone House, The Spirit Well, The Shadow Lamp, and The Fatal Tree. So I don't really know anything about what the series is about. I have a number of other Stephen Lawhead series that I haven't read yet, so this will not be my priority in terms of his books. I want to read the Pendragon cycle first, I think, because I've had them the longest without reading them. So I think these are going to go into storage for now, but I will read them at some point because the Stephen Lawhead books I've read, I've really enjoyed. So looking forward to reading more of his books. And then finally, my dad won a competition a while back on Caboodle and won a complete set of Kazuo Ishiguro novels, and he's read them all now and didn't want to keep them, so he gave them to me. 3 of them I already had, but I'd got them secondhand, so his copies are in much better condition. So that was these 3, When We Were Orphans, A Pale View of Hills, and Never Let Me Go. Never Let Me Go is probably the one I'm going to get to quickest because I've been meaning to read it for a really long time. I haven't got around to it yet. That one might go to uni with me, whereas the rest of these are probably going to end up in storage as well. And so then we've also got The Buried Giant, which again I think is a more science fiction-y one. The Remains of the Day, which is another of his more famous ones. A winner of the Nobel Prize and the Booker Prize. So maybe that one needs to go up the TBR a little bit. An Artist of the Floating World, The Unconsoled, and Nocturnes. So I don't know what most of them are about. Dad said he enjoyed some of them but not all of them, and didn't think he'd want to reread any of them, so he gave them all to me. I'm quite looking forward to reading them because I've been wanting to read Kazuo Ishiguro for a while. I had owned 3 of those already and hadn't got around to them, so really keen to give them a go at some point fairly fairly soon. Hopefully we'll enjoy them. That's all of them. I don't know how many that was. I am too lazy to count them right now. Most of these, well, it varies. Some of these will probably go to college with me and some of them will go into storage for now. I'm gonna have a system where I've got a spreadsheet and I'm gonna be numbering the boxes that the books go into, so that if I want one particularly, I'll know where to find it, where it's in storage. Or say in storage, they're gonna be stored at my parents' house, so that will be helpful to be able to find them when I want them, when I'm home for a visit or something. So let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. I'd love to know if there's anything you think I should be getting to more quickly. Yeah, so have a chat to me down in the comments about that. Please also like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And you can also follow me on my social media. I'm on Twitter, on Instagram and on Goodreads, and all that information is listed in the description box below for you. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!